My parents erased me from their lives for 5 years because my sister told them I had dropped out of medical school. Last month, she showed up in my emergency room bleeding badly, and the trauma team called for the chief surgeon. The doors opened. My mother saw the name on my white coat. Her hand gripped my father's arm so tightly that he flinched. Growing up, my sister was always the brilliant one. Her name is Claire Bennett, and she could charm any adult in the room within minutes. My parents swallowed it all like dessert. I was the quiet kid with a science project and a second-place ribbon no one ever asked about. One weekend, I made it to the state science fair. That same weekend, Claire had a small role in a school play. Guess which event my parents said they absolutely couldn't miss. I stood next to my project table, scanning the room again and again, waiting for them to walk in. They never did. When I got accepted into medical school across the country, my father finally looked at me and said, "Maybe you'll actually make something of yourself." It wasn't love, but it felt like oxygen. Claire smiled too, but only with her mouth. After that, she started calling me more often, asking about classes, asking about professors, asking about exam dates. I thought she cared. What I didn't realize was that I was giving her ammunition. During my 3rd year of medical school, my best friend Lily Carter was diagnosed with late-stage cancer. She didn't have family nearby, just me. The university approved a formal leave so I could take care of her for a semester. There were forms to sign and meetings with the school, but none of that mattered. Lily was terrified, and she had no one else, so I stayed with her. I drove her to appointments, sat with her during treatments, slept in the uncomfortable chair beside her hospital bed when the nights got bad. At some point, exhausted and overwhelmed, I made the mistake of calling Claire. Part of me hoped that for once she might just act like a normal sister. Her voice turned soft immediately. She said she understood. She said she was proud of me for helping Lily. She even promised she wouldn't tell Mom and Dad because they would only worry. I believed her. 3 days later, my father called. His voice sounded colder than I had ever heard it. "Your sister told us everything." According to him, I had dropped out of school. Apparently, I had run off with someone. Apparently, I had thrown away my future. I tried to explain. I offered to send documents from the university. I told him he could call the dean himself if he wanted. He didn't let me finish. "Don't call this house again until you're ready to tell the truth." Then he hung up. After that, my number stopped working for them. My calls went straight to voicemail. My messages were never answered. A week later, my mother blocked me too. I sent them a letter trying to explain everything. It came back unopened. My mother's handwriting was on the envelope, like I was junk mail. Like I was something that could simply be returned to sender. Lily died that winter. I was the only person in the hospital room when the monitor finally went flat. The sound of that machine going silent stayed with me for a long time. After the nurses finished their work and the room emptied, I sat there alone for a while. Before everything happened, Lily had slipped a note inside my anatomy textbook. I didn't find it until weeks later. It only had one sentence written on it. "Finish. Don't let blood decide your worth." So I finished. I went back to medical school. I graduated. Then came residency. Long nights, endless shifts, years of learning how to stay calm while someone's life hung in the balance. Eventually, I became a trauma surgeon. I got married. Her name is Caroline Hayes. She met me during my last year of residency and somehow decided I was worth keeping around even though I was exhausted most of the time. When we got married, I sent invitations to my parents in Hartford, Connecticut anyway. Part of me still hoped they would show up. Every envelope came back the same way, unopened, returned. Like the others, like I had never existed. Years passed, and then last month, at 3:07 a.m., my pager went off. Severe car accident, unstable vitals, possible abdominal bleeding. The kind of case that wakes up the entire trauma team. I walked toward the nurse's station while pulling on my surgical cap. The admission chart was waiting on the counter. I picked it up and glanced at the name. Claire Bennett, my sister. For exactly 3 seconds, I didn't move. The hallway clock ticks loudly enough that you can hear every second. Tick, tick, tick. Then my feet started moving again. The chart looked like every trauma admission I had seen in the last 6 years. Name, age, blood type, mechanism of injury, female patient, 31 years old, severe internal bleeding. Her name was still there when I looked again. "Dr. Hayes." The voice came from the other side of the desk. It was Maria Delgado, one of the triage nurses. "She's already on the way to OR3. The team's waiting." I folded the chart and tucked it under my arm. "I'm coming." For a moment, I considered stepping away. Technically, I could have declared a conflict of interest. Another surgeon could have taken the case. That would have been the safe option. the reasonable one. But abdominal hemorrhage doesn't wait while someone sorts out family history. So I pushed open the doors to operating room 3. The room was already prepared. Bright white lights, cold air, metal instruments arranged neatly on the tray. My team stood ready. Dr. Patel at anesthesia, Nurse Grant circulating, Ben at the instrument table. Chief surgeon in the room, Maria announced behind me. No one asked questions. After 6 years running trauma surgery, people learn not to waste time before an operation. I walked to the sink and began scrubbing my hands. 80 seconds, counting each one, water running over my knuckles, between my fingers, under my nails. I pulled on the gloves, adjusted my mask, then stepped up to the operating table. It was the first time I had seen my sister in 5 years. Bruises covered part of her forehead and neck. The oxygen mask hid half her face. The heart monitor beside her bed beeped unevenly. Her blood pressure was still dropping. I forced myself to look at the facts. Not my sister, just the patient. Vitals on arrival? I asked. Dr. Patel answered without looking up. Blood pressure 84/50 when she came in, now 78/48. Heart rate 118. Oxygen 91% with support. She paused briefly. Fast scan shows internal bleeding, likely severe spleen injury. Blood transfusion already running. Good. All right, I said. Let's begin. The surgery lasted 2 hours and 40 minutes. There was a moment, about halfway through, when her blood pressure dropped suddenly. The monitor started beeping faster, the sharp warning sound that every surgeon learns to recognize even in their sleep. Pressure falling, Dr. Patel said. Ben already had the instrument in his hand before I asked for it. Nurse Grant started calling out numbers every 30 seconds. The room moved with the kind of quiet coordination that only comes from years of working together. My hands didn't shake. Not because I was brave, because they had been trained not to. 10 years of surgical training teaches your body something important: how to separate what you feel from what you do. The body learns the job. The emotions come later, sometimes much later. We repaired the damage, controlled the bleeding, cleared the abdominal cavity, then closed the incision layer by layer. When the monitor finally showed stable numbers again, I stepped back. Her blood pressure had climbed to 102/64. The room felt quieter. I placed the instrument back on the tray. Good work, I said. It wasn't politeness, it was information. The team had done their job well. Dr. Patel checked the monitor one more time. She'll be in recovery in 15 minutes. I nodded. Then I walked out of the operating room. I removed my gloves in the hallway and dropped them into the red container without looking. At the end of the corridor, there's a water fountain most people avoid. The water always comes out slightly warm. I took 3 long drinks anyway. That's when I saw them. My parents were sitting in the waiting area behind the glass wall that separates the surgery wing from the family area. My father held my mother's hand tightly between both of his. She was leaning forward, crying into a tissue. My father wasn't crying. He was staring at the operating room doors like he could see through them if he focused hard enough. 5 years. 5 years without seeing my face, without hearing my voice, without answering a single letter. Now they were staring at the name stitched on my coat. Dr. Daniel Hayes, Chief of Trauma Surgery. I stood on the other side of the glass for a moment, not because it was dramatic, because I needed to organize what I was about to say. Talking to families after surgery is something surgeons learn to do carefully. You keep the emotions under control. You give the information clearly. You avoid unnecessary words. When I was ready, I pushed open the door to the waiting room. My mother looked up first. Her face changed instantly. It was a strange mixture of relief and shock, and something else. Something that looked a lot like fear. My father stood up automatically. The kind of reflex people have when someone with authority enters a room. I stopped about 6 feet away, the same distance I keep with every patient's family. My name is Dr. Hayes, I said calmly. I'm the trauma surgeon who operated on your daughter. Silence filled the room. My father opened his mouth, then closed it again. My mother squeezed the tissue in her hands. The surgery was successful, I continued. She had a severe spleen injury with internal bleeding. We repaired the damage and stopped the hemorrhage. She's currently being moved to recovery. My mother whispered something. At first, I didn't realize she had said my name, Daniel. Her voice sounded fragile, small. It was the first time I had heard my name from her in 5 years. Daniel? Is that really you? I didn't answer the question. A nurse will come speak with you once she's stable enough for visitors, I said. The first 24 hours are important. They'll be monitoring her blood pressure and blood levels closely.